Shalom, bitches. Myandis here from Audio Only, bringing you some more Billy Bob Space Trucker. We're on Chapter 12, so let us begin. President Cross was sitting in a small conference room on the dodecahedron, with several other dignitaries and military personnel, as they began to lay out what they knew regarding the situation. Butch Cross had traded out his official flag cloak and eagle standard from the press conference with a more casual suit that he'd ripped the arms off himself. He leaned forward, hands clasped in front of him, as he listened to the presentation. The situation had been moving ahead over the past day, as for the first time since the Unification Crusade, America was thinking about accepting an alliance with a foreign power. So, this species known as Libertonians, which is a good name on its own, look like space eagles. The intel officer nodded. That's correct, sir. As you can see from the pictures, they do have 4 arms and some sort of flexible insect wing-like webbing between them to assist in flying. But overall, they look like tall space eagles. There were murmurs of approval from around the table. And their current president is named Abe, as in Abraham, like Abraham Lincoln. The intel officer nodded once more. That is correct, sir. However, his last name is Sharp-Talon. Abraham Sharp-Talon. President Butch Crusher Cross repeated the name with a nod as he looked around the table. I think we could form an alliance with an Abraham Sharp-Talon. Do they have videos of him hunting or something, to help the citizens get excited about the first batch of awesome Xenos we've met and all that? No, sir, but I'll pass on the word. The thing is, they're in a bit of a tricky diplomatic situation. Cross waved a hand dismissively. They're tall, freedom-loving space eagles. I don't give a shit if the rest of the galaxy hates them. We're going to befriend them. That's just it, sir. The rest of the galaxy does sort of hate them. And why is that? They started some war around the formation of the galactic government a few centuries back, I think. They wanted more freedom in policy decisions, I think. It's hard to find information since most of the galaxy thinks we're a subspecies of the UHG. Cross waved a hand at them once more. Fuck it. Sounds like my kind of Xenos. For once, I don't see why we just forge ahead with this. Look, Mr. President, you don't have the authority to do that on your own. I say we make them come here and live a week in Australia to test their mettle. Cross rolled his eyes at Governor Dundee. Ned, you recommend that with all the Xenos we talk about, the gravity alone would crush most of them. Look, just because the UHG didn't want your land of nopes, and we decided to take you in, doesn't mean Australia gets special treatment. You're still a state. Governor Dundee was going to be Cross's primary opponent in the next election. His croc wrestling impressed voters, but Cross was confident that he could take him in the Debate Mania cage match. The intel officer looked between the two for a moment before coughing softly. There's also the matter of our official embassy exchange and ceremony. Cross groaned at that. No, UHG ceremonies are bad enough. What's this one about? If I understand correctly, you trade cans of alcohol, shotgun them, and then smash them on your forehead. Cross jumped to his feet, arms raised in the air. The alliance between America and the Libertonians waits for no one. Actually, yes it does. What? The president glared at the intel officer. They insist we wait until the success of our American escorting their diplomat on a mission. Who the fuck is making the President of the United States of America wait on him? That would be Billy Bob Space Trucker. Billy Bob had started to calm down as the biogel seemed to settle within his system, and they managed to convince him to come back to the med bay for a quick exam. He was still tearing off chunks of steak with his teeth and eating them. Emily had tried some and was startled at the incredible flavor. A valuable trade commodity should their people ever begin to trade. But Goldsmith was more interested in Billy Bob's anatomy. This is incredible! Your species is so dense, the nanites have enough material to continually operate. Their variable programming seems to have toned down their work, but they'll last in your system far longer than most organisms. All that water in your cells is astounding. Billy Bob just nodded and chewed on Kobe beef. Yep. What was in that glue you used on yourself anyway? It must have been potent to keep such moist cells stuck together. Billy Bob shrugged. Horse hooves? Nah, I think it's just Elmer's and Jell-O. Man, when I was a kid, I loved letting extra Elmer's to dry on my fingers and peel it off. He chuckled. Good times. Dr. Goldsmith looked to Emily, who shrugged. The space goblin continued then. Well, either way, I'll give you another 2 liters of biogel just in case. But Billy Bob, don't take any more unless you seriously need to. Billy Bob nodded at that. Hey, how come we've never heard of this before? This biogel seems super useful. It's illegal outside of the galactic military, but we space goblins don't really follow the law. Billy Bob grinned at that. Sounds good. Hopping off the exam table, he collected the metal containers with more biogel, and followed Emily out of the station, stopping near the exit of the medbay to collect his weapons. Billy Bob, I must say you were incredible earlier. The Borks are known for being fierce warriors, and you defeated them easily. Billy Bob shrugged it off with a smile. Just good American fighting skills, I guess, he said as they began to walk out of the station. The meat supply store was fixing their window, and Billy Bob waved at the cook, who was reading up on a PDF Billy Bob had sent over. Kill it and grill it. He was passing by what looked like some sort of lounge with various Xenos sitting around dressed in clothes? Sort of like lingerie, maybe? But on Xenos, it just sort of confused him. He'd never seen a place like this. Emily, what's this place? Oh, it's a companionship and philosophy center. What? Lonely people, or just anyone in need of some companionship, can come by and rent time with an employee inside. They might couple, or just talk, in the private rooms within the establishment. Like space hookers. Is this a space brothel? My translator isn't quite sure the terms match. Why? Did you want to couple with someone? Billy Bob froze up, his world going slightly dark. Suddenly, he wasn't on the station anymore. He was back in high school, freshman biology, Mrs. Munchausen's class. The class was crying and screaming as she slapped the hollow projector with her yardstick. Pay attention, class! Until the projector registers everyone's eye focus, I will not continue, which means you'll be here all day until we get it out of the way. They were looking at a horrific image, projected fully before them, with the label Space Gonorrhea. Finally, everyone looked back at the projector as she clicked to the next slide. This is Space Chlamydia! Everyone screamed again. Space Herpes! More screaming. Space Syphilis! A few kids had to run to the trash cans as they puked. Mrs. Munchausen's evil sneer plastered on her face as she hit the button again. And we don't even have a name for this one yet! Most people ran out of the room, including Billy Bob. Later on, he'd heard it all was made up, but there was no fucking way he was taking any chances. No, I'm good. Let's just get back to the ship. Emily looked a little confused as he began to push her ahead of him to keep them moving right on by. Once they were out of the main station and walking back to their ship, he smiled at the sight of a metal container waiting near his airlock. The space goblins had been nice enough to agree to give him a supply of human food to take with him, and had given him the location of several other black market stations where he'd be welcome. Hey, cool. More steaks and stuff. Galactic trade is good stuff. He picked open the airlock before realizing something. Aw, shit. Mittens is probably starving. When he opened the inner airlock, though, he was confused as he looked around at the mess. The fuck? Mittens was curled up on the bed. There were empty cat food cans laying around, and one of the Bork rifles on the floor. Bork blood was smeared on the ground, and on the door leading into the bathroom. Stepping up, he opened the bathroom and heard a cry of terror as he found a Bork with a bleeding face curled around the space toilet. Please don't kill me. I'm sorry. I'll do whatever you want. The fuck are you doing in there? I wait until your pet calls for food, then I quickly open a can for him and hide again. He spared my life in exchange for my ability to open those cans." Mittens looked up from the bed as the Bork cried out, and hunkered down closer to the toilet. "Please, my life is forfeit to you. I'll be your lifelong servant." "Sorry, pal, not a fan of slaves." He picked up the Bork's weapon, handing it to him as the Bork blinked, looking confused and afraid. Billy Bob nodded and pushed the weapon at him. The Bork finally took it, but didn't get up. "Here, instead I want you to get back on the station and get a job as a guard. Protect this station. It's your new home. You live to guard it for me. 'Kay, pal?" "Yes, thank you. You do me a great honor. I will not forget." "Here, hold on." He set his things down, pulling a glass from the cupboard and pouring some biogel into it. He handed it to the Bork, who took it and slowly drank the contents, seeming to struggle with the last of it, even though it was only about 2 big American-sized shots of liquid. He shakily got to his feet and slowly edged out of the bathroom, trying to stay as far away from Mittens as he could in the small cabin. Once he was past the cat, he ran out of the airlock. "I swear I'll protect this station with my life," he called as he ran out. Billy Bob just chuckled and gave Mittens a pat. The cat purred and nuzzled his hand. "What a terror you are, buddy. Who knew?" That done, he and Emily cleaned up and loaded up the supplies they'd been given, and Billy Bob got his Longhorn moving back towards the space lane. He'd need to drive straight on to his 99 to deliver the cargo. Then it was off to the galactic capital. Once he was back into the FTL lane, he looked over at Emily. "Hey, Emily, I'll bet you didn't hear that." "Hear what?" She removed her hood and her mask, which was what he'd been waiting for. "We call it silent, but deadly." She frowned as she looked at him. "What are you talking about?" He just grinned wide until her eyes opened in shock. "Oh, by the vengeful God! Billy Bob, that's disgusting!" She got up, rushing to the bathroom as he chuckled. Turning on his music, he settled in for the drive. So ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob, Space Trucker. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. We've got much more coming in the weeks following. And, well, have a nice day.